The cold morning air in Redwood Point feels heavy as the CBI team arrives at the scene. Two young women, Nicole Gilbert and Cara Palmer, vanished into the shadows of the forest during the night. They were last seen at Sullivan's, a local tavern where the floor smells of stale beer and old secrets. Sheriff Nelson, a man hardened by the isolation of the area, greets Lisbon with a grim expression. They already found the abandoned car on a dirt road, and he fears the worst. He explains that he only has 4 rangers and says he'll need help, but Lisbon marks her territory immediately. If the CBI is here, they are in charge. Nelson and his deputies are now support staff. Patrick Jane, however, has no interest in jurisdiction battles. He's already crouched beside the abandoned vehicle. He notices a blood-stained MP3 player still plugged into the dashboard, and a purse dumped upside down, scattering makeup tubes and earthly pure cases across the seats like forgotten toys. Lisbon tries the ignition key, but the engine only gives a hollow metallic click. It's dead. Nearby, Cho points out deep tire tracks leading away from the car, clearly different from the vehicle's own. He starts preparing a cast. One of the rangers stands nearby with a tracking dog that whines and circles the vehicle with frantic energy. The officer is confused, saying the dog can't find any scent trail leading away from the car. Jane watches the dog for a moment, then looks at the raised frame of the vehicle. He asks one simple, devastating question. Did you check under the car? The rangers shift uncomfortably, realizing they hadn't. They kneel down, and the silence that follows is grave-like. Beneath the chassis lies Cara Palmer's body, cold, motionless, dead, but Nicole Gilbert is nowhere to be found. As a massive search party is organized, Lisbon digs into the lives of the 2 girls. The contrast is sharp. Cara was the good girl, raised in a religious family with a stable home. Nicole was the troubled soul, already familiar with police stations, her father serving time for drug charges. The sheriff explains that the Palmers had practically adopted Nicole, giving her the only real home she'd ever known. Among the volunteers joining the search is a helpful young ranger named Kyle, who seems a little too eager to speculate about the monsters hiding in the woods. Jane watches him briefly, but says nothing yet. The investigation moves to the Palmer home. Palmer serves tea with trembling hands while Mr. Palmer sits in stunned silence. Despite Nicole's troubled history, they refused to believe she could ever hurt Cara. They loved her like a daughter. But the peaceful family picture wasn't perfect. They mentioned Jason O'Toole, Nicole's fiancé. Cara never liked him. She sensed something unreliable beneath his charm. Cara herself didn't have a boyfriend, making Jason the main source of tension between the 2 friends. Deep in the thick forest, Jane suddenly stops walking. He looks at Sheriff Nelson and coldly tells him the search is a waste of time. They've already walked 8 kilometers from the abandoned car. Nicole was barefoot, drunk, and it was pitch black outside. There's no physical way she could have traveled that far. Jane concludes that she's either dead or being held captive. His blunt honesty unsettles Nelson, but Jane insists they call the searchers back. He wants everyone together in one place. Lisbon backs him up, explaining the theory that killers often return to the scene to help with the investigation. Nelson is skeptical, but agrees to gather the volunteers. While the search party regroups, Rigsby and Cho track down Jason O'Toole. He's defensive, bloodshot-eyed, and in a foul mood. He claims he passed out on the tavern floor the night Nicole and Cara disappeared because he was too drunk to drive, which is why Cara took Nicole home. He tells them the entire engagement party was recorded on video, offering an alibi that feels almost too convenient. He firmly denies there was any bad blood between him and Cara. Just as Jane begins studying the gathered volunteers, searching for a flicker of guilt or a bead of sweat, a radio call suddenly comes in. Nicole Gilbert has been found. The scene shifts to a lonely gas station miles away. Nicole is there, curled up in an aisle, covered in dried blood and holding a knife at anyone who comes near her. She stuffs food into her mouth with desperate, primal hunger, her eyes wide and glassy with trauma. At the hospital, the atmosphere is sterile and silent. The doctor tells Lisbon and Jane that Nicole suffered a moderate concussion, hypothermia, and multiple abrasions. Physically, she'll recover, but mentally, she's withdrawn completely. She remembers nothing about the night Cara died. Sheriff Nelson, watching through the glass, is cynical. He thinks the amnesia is an act and wants to charge her with Kara's murder the second she's released. Lisbon shuts him down immediately. This is a CBI case, and they don't arrest people for convenience. Jane and Lisbon enter the room. Nicole looks fragile, asking about Kara. Against the doctor's direct orders and Lisbon's silent concern, Jane tells her the truth. Kara is dead. He doesn't do it out of cruelty. He does it to break the wall blocking her memory. He sits beside her bed and gently starts guiding her back to that dark road. Nicole's eyes flicker as the memories slowly return. She and Kara were driving. She felt sick, alcohol and nerves twisting together, and asked Kara to pull over. She got out to throw up. Then, in the darkness, a man approached. She never saw his face, but she remembers a sound, a constant sound, like something rushing fast, like water or something else. Before she can say more, panic takes over and the doctor forces the detectives out of the room. Jane is convinced Nicole is innocent. He points out that despite the heavy rain that night, Nicole was covered in blood when they found her. That means she'd been kept somewhere indoors, protected from the storm, close to the source of that rushing sound. Lisbon coordinates with Rigsby to map every cabin and shed near the river, while Van Pelt starts reviewing the engagement party tapes. As the team watches the grainy footage, Jane's eyes lock onto the screen. He notices Jason filming Kara almost as much as his own fiancée. There's tension beneath the surface, but Lisbon spots someone else, a rough-looking man in the background, staring at the girls like a predator. A quick database search identifies him as Rulon Farnes, a truck driver for Earthly Pure, the same makeup brand scattered inside the abandoned car. Following his instincts, Jane slips away from the station. He returns to the hospital and quietly sits beside Nicole's bed until she wakes up. Then he asks her directly, "Did you kill her?" Nicole doesn't know. The trauma is a wall she still can't break through. Outside in the hallway, Jason is causing a scene, trying to push past the officers to see her. The noise rattles Nicole, and Jane watches her reaction carefully, noticing that her anxiety spikes not at the mention of murder, but at the sound of her fiancé's voice. Meanwhile, Rigsby and Cho corner Rulon Farnes in the men's restroom at Sullivan's. He's a big man and fights back hard, struggling until Van Pelt storms in and drops him with a perfect kick to the groin. Back at the station, Farnes admits he flirted with Kara and even gave her makeup samples, but swears he never killed her. Jane enters the interrogation room and studies him closely. He notices Farnes is deeply insecure about his weight. More importantly, Jane has secretly taken Kara's MP3 player from evidence and has been listening to it himself. To the team's surprise, Jane tells them to release Farnes. He explains that Farnes is a man without malice. Unpleasant, yes, but not a killer. Lisbon is furious that Jane tampered with evidence, but while they argue, she hears the distant sound of traffic from the nearby highway, the rushing sound. It wasn't water. It was tires moving over wet pavement. Immediately, they shift the search away from rivers and cabins and focus on the highway instead. Jane decides to take a dangerous gamble. He secretly sneaks Nicole out of the hospital and drives her back to the exact place where the abandoned car was found. He turns on the MP3 player, playing the same songs from that night. The triggers work. Nicole begins to cry as the memories return in waves. She remembers the argument. Kara had told her not to marry Jason. Why? Because Jason and Kara had been secretly seeing each other behind Nicole's back. The betrayal made Nicole jump out of the car in a rush of nausea. While she stood beside the road, a pickup truck pulled over. Kara yelled for Nicole to get back inside the car and stay safe, but a man stepped out and struck Nicole down. Frozen in terror, she watched the man stab Kara to death before dragging Nicole into the back of his truck. At that same moment, miles away, Lisbon is searching an abandoned shed near the highway. She isn't alone. The helpful ranger Kyle is with her. Her phone rings. It's Jane. He's still with Nicole on the roadside. Nicole is describing her captor, a man who tried to assault her inside the shed, but she fought him off with his own knife. Jane relays the description to Lisbon over the phone. Around 30 years old, tall, strong, wears glasses. Too vague to be certain. Then Jane asks Nicole if she remembers anything else. Anything at all. Pineapples, she whispers. He smelled like pineapples. Jane repeats the words to Lisbon, and Lisbon's heart stops. She slowly turns toward Kyle's truck parked outside the shed. Hanging from the rearview mirror is a yellow pineapple-shaped air freshener. The realization hits Lisbon like lightning. She looks at Kyle standing beside her. The fake innocence on his face twists into something cold and vicious now that she knows the truth. He smiles, but it isn't friendly anymore. Without breaking eye contact with him, Lisbon answers Jane as calmly as she can, hiding the panic boiling inside her. She gives Jane precise instructions to pass along to the team, carefully revealing her exact location at the shed. Then she leaves the call connected, dropping the phone onto the floor so Jane can hear everything happening around her. Lisbon slowly starts backing away, her hand sliding toward her weapon. Kyle notices. The smile disappears. His eyes darken, and his own hand moves toward his sidearm. The air suddenly feels charged, stretched tight in the frozen second before violence erupts. "Don't do anything stupid, Kyle," Lisbon says, her voice steady but tense. But Kyle isn't listening anymore. He pulls his gun. Lisbon reacts in a split second, drawing hers just as he fires. The gunshot explodes through the tiny shed. Both of them dive for cover at the same time. Flashlights crash to the ground, and darkness swallows the room, broken only by the faint glow of Lisbon's phone lying on the floor. The gunfight continues, the echo of every shot hammering through the shed. Hidden behind cover, Lisbon whispers into the phone that Rigsby is on his way. Her mind races, then she acts fast. Using her foot, she pushes the phone across the floor, sliding it into the middle of the room. The glowing screen becomes the perfect decoy. Kyle sees the movement and lunges toward the light, convinced Lisbon is trying to escape. In that exact instant, Lisbon takes advantage of the distraction and bursts out of the shed just as Rigsby comes sprinting in, alerted by the gunshots and Jane's call. Rigsby and Lisbon move together perfectly. When Kyle charges out of the shed, furious and disoriented, they trap him immediately. Rigsby grabs him from behind while Lisbon tears the gun from his hand. The struggle is short but brutal. Kyle, the helpful ranger, is finally brought down. Justice has caught the monster who was hiding in plain sight all along. With the threat neutralized and the killer in custody, the CBI team begins packing up. The air no longer feels as heavy as before. Nicole, pale but carrying a new strength in her eyes, stands beside Mr. Palmer. He pulls her into an embrace, and in his eyes there is forgiveness and the same love they always had for her. Nearby, Patrick, Jane, and Lisbon watch quietly, receiving sincere thanks for uncovering the truth and finding Kara's killer. As the CBI team drives away from Redwood Point, leaving behind the forest and its dark secrets, Nicole Gilbert climbs into the car beside Mr. Palmer. She has lost her best friend and been betrayed by her fiancé, but she has regained her memories, and with them, the chance to heal. The investigation is over, but for Nicole, the long road toward recovery is only beginning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't stop here. Check out the other Mentalist episodes on the channel and watch the full playlist in order to follow Patrick Jane's best cases from beginning to end.